Hello, my name is Joe Dever, and I'll be doing my report on the impact of social media on the environment, both its positives and negatives. And I will be tying together my first two status reports to further expand on what what whether social media plays more of a negative impact or a positive impact on the environment. So for at the beginning of my paper, I delve into some of the negative sides first to get that out of the way at the beginning, and I start off by explaining like how different types of social media posts in like far off secluded lands that not a lot of people have been to. Maybe like I use the example of my paper about Mount Everest and how once people start posting more social media at these types of places, the debris and footprint on the environment increases vastly to the extent where there's just litter trash everywhere, and something that used to be so like sacred and so like secluded is now completely touched by man, and that's definitely a huge negative when it comes to some of the stuff social media does, especially with influencers who go to these like tropical places, and then they encourage more to follow them there, and that's how it goes down a bad path. And then I also talk about how some of the negatives of the lifetime of our cell phone devices or laptops or tablets, how we access social media. The lifetime of these devices is relatively short, like maybe a few years if you're lucky, and then unless you want to spend a lot of money on keep getting them fixed, which is way too much in the long run, then you end up having to just throw it out, and all that waste gets put into a landfill somewhere where it will sit there and rot for hundreds of years, and those lithium batteries are really harmful for the habitat when they're broken down there. And another negative is similar to that, the energy consumption from charging them devices. Like obviously every day to use your laptop, phone, even your car, sometimes you have to plug it in, right? And that's how you are able to access these social media platforms, and it can add up very quickly how much energy it takes to do that. And then the other two are negatives I talked about are pretty similar. One of which would be the increase in general of consumerism. I know we're like all aware of the ads that can bombard us just daily, and it's been going on forever. But now with social media, and specifically Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, I mean they'll do it. They track your data, what you like, they know your interests, and then they shove similar products down your throat, basically making people think that they need to buy them, because the ads will be so targeted that it will end up just with more people buying things maybe that they didn't need, but now that they are getting ads for it, they think they need. And obviously that can increase consumerism, can add up in increase not only things that end up in landfills, but increase global shipping, which has a huge footprint on the environment with all the cargo ships and planes that these things have to go over from. That's a lot of fuel, and terrible for the wildlife. And then a similar negative that I was delving into is the concept of greenwashing, which is a marketing skill that some of these companies that you probably see on Instagram also are using. And these companies will claim that they're doing something good for the environment, when in reality it's just another product for someone to buy and have shipped all over the world and end up in a landfill eventually. Where like one of the examples I used in my paper, which I talked about last stats report also, was the plastic straws, and I found this Twitter company called the Metal Straws Company, and they were just, their Twitter is just saying how obviously plastic straws are terrible for the environment, but they say that by buying their product, you're saving the earth by not buying single-use plastic straws again, which is somewhat true. It's based in truth, but it's really kind of skewing the truth, because you don't need, like, you can just drink out of a cup without a straw. So the point of having just another straw is just adding to the global consumption of goods, which is causing more cargo ships, more planes to travel around, more fuel to be used. And they're also priding themselves on, like, so-called saving the environment, which is debatable whether they're doing that or not. And so having said some of the negatives, now I'll talk about some of the good things. I think that there's a lot more negatives, but some of the good things might outweigh them, the negatives, because of just how much is capable in the positive way of using social media. And I talked about how social media is a great way to spread awareness on certain environmental issues that otherwise would not have been able to be heard about by people all over the world. And one case I use in my essay is the Australian wildfires, when they a few years ago or last year, they were just ravaging Australia with the amount of, it's just from dry climate and not a lot of rain, and the wildfires just spread enormously. And this brought a lot of attention to what global warming can cause. Not only that, but as well as bringing in people from all over the world to help them, which was necessary and key for Australia to make a comeback. And I don't think that if we had seen those campaigns all over social media, then people wouldn't have jumped on a plane as fast. All these volunteer firemen from all over the world jumped in a plane and helped them out. And I think that's valuable. I also think just the idea of seeing a video or a picture is more than just hearing about something through with like words. Like, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think that before social media, if these wildfires were to happen, you might not be able to see in Nebraska what's going on in Australia, because just the sheer capabilities of how far we could reach at the time, it wouldn't even be the close. So you don't understand the true impact of what happened, and we saw how devastating through those videos and pictures it turned out. And that's why it could be definitely a very very valuable resource on that end. I think that another good example of this social media activism could be found in Greta Thunberg, who's like she's a teenage girl who is a huge activist. She has 9.7 million followers on Instagram, which is an enormous net that she could reach, and she does reach. And her words that she comes out with in she's just one of the biggest figures that are activists at the moment, and she causes a lot of stir from people who are against her, because of just her ability to reach so many people, and I think that's one of the enormous like positives of um, social media, because without that, like, you need without social media, you need a publishing company to reach that many people, maybe even like more. Like, you would have had no other way to have that many people hear your words if not for social media. And the the last negative building off of some of this awareness and activism on social media that I found in my research would be something called selectivism, which is really it's not. I'm not saying that everyone who's activist on social media is one of this, but selectivism is basically someone who like virtue signals and says that, like, will repost something on Instagram and think that they're doing enough by just doing that, and um, you could do that in the comfort of your home and never even pick up a piece of trash off the beach if you say, hey, I'll retweet this, and then now I'm doing my part because I'm I'm like retweeting this, I'm spreading it, which is true, but if everyone's doing that, no one's doing anything, which is the problem. And I think that there's a fine line between successful and like activism done right versus slacktivism, which is more phatic more phatic way to go about helping the environment. Even though it is valuable, I think that it can be almost like it can give the person who's doing it like justification to maybe buy an extra single-use good because they think that like they're a good person because they've been like spreading it on social media, which I think that's a bad mindset. But overall, like I said, having weighed all these positives and negatives, if done properly, I think that social media, by spreading awareness, has so much potential in being good. And I think that as long as we're aware of what the negatives can be and we're avoiding them, I think that it could be a powerful tool and maybe even save the planet one day. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.